Hello, hello, everybody, every pony and undecided, and you're hearing from the horse's mouth. We all have seen rather very weird episodes, or as in any fandom that we land on. But there comes a time where curiosity killed the cat, and you just break a pattern and be able to just watch something you know is gonna be, it's the weird and the bizarre, and well, I mean, introduction aside, this is going to be pretty much a reminiscing style of this episode. To give you kind of a little backdrop here, I'm going to talk about the episode Scully, Mulder and Scully Meet the Were-Monster. It's a season 10 episode of The X-Files, which The X-Files recently within quarantine has been on my watch list of things to binge watch. Now, I've never watched The X-Files before until my friend Dina introduced me to this series, and the quality of the writing is actually really good, and I just, the funny thing about this episode is that I actually just got done with season 2 recently. Like, we were skipping various episodes just to go over to a certain character to help her, Dina out with her fanfic. And one day, or one evening pretty much, we actually were just on Facebook working on our role-playing story, Reformation, the Chronicles of the Scout Hunters, which I've mentioned that in my previous video that I've been working on, or if not, it's all right. But anyways, we saw an interesting photograph with one of the actors next to a monster-esque with a costume or something in whiteies, and color was curious. We were wondering where on earth that episode was. This was on the X-Files fan group Facebook page, and I broke tradition and, well, this is one of those weird, you gotta first understand that I had no idea where this was going. I know that this episode was released back in 2016, so it's still relatively new. The storyline itself, how can I describe it? I mean, it's the same writer also directed it, this episode, and this is one of which leads over to the title cards. It's so cringy. It's satisfying. And allow me to get into it a little more. And this is heavy spoilers, sort of, since I kind of hopped back and forth. So this is from a new fan's perspective. So this episode was a very huge contrast to the usual stuff that you see on the X-Files. It's serious. It talks about the supernatural. It talks about with aliens pretty much before History Channel made it into a meme and such. But and they wouldn't get into a little fantasy and some sci-fi and all that. But at least one thing I appreciate about the X-Files is that they are willingly to experiment on. And this episode is one of those examples. The writing itself, just to kind of give a little bit of a backstory, and if you, I didn't know what was going on landing in season 10. Like I said, I've just finished season 2. I've noticed that Mulder must have gone through something to make him think and rethink his career and rethink of everything. And this is all, of course, after in the beginning we actually see a couple getting high on spray paint. And okay, that's weird. We already seen a lot of weird things and all that, but then we get to see something a little grotesque. And well, I could show you the clips of myself, but then with YouTube also being a place of misery, I don't want to show it without getting affected. So like I said, it's more of a reminiscing style. So back to it, we kind of get to see that Mulder is almost at a midlife crisis, or I don't know what character development he went in, but he began to question a lot of his own thinking methods. And I thought, well, I mean, which I kind of almost related to that because I've recently been thinking about changing a lot of things on my channel and how I think things and everything like that. And almost like that almost sense of growing out in the perspective, but then they get a call about this case where this couple are seeing this monster, and of course a lot of things went back and forth, and then the hotel manager where they were staying at claimed they saw a monster, and a lot of the interior work, and there was so many Easter eggs that fans would see that people would pretty much be, if you've been a fan for a long time, they would see this as a lot of Easter eggs. And apparently, and this is going into spoiler territory, they ended up following this one particular character. Then they experiment with this app, taking multiple photos, and this happened. And suddenly we come across this guy in the Long John department area, which we were like, seriously? But I mean, the essence of this episode, it almost felt like in the style of what was going on, it almost felt like a very, very cringy or a bad fan fiction almost. And like in that style of writing. I've been helping out with some tutoring on some writing and such lately on my spare time and all that. And I mean, I've seen many works like fan fiction and everything, but looking at all this, it was like seeing it all as a fanfic adaptation, and we haven't even gone halfway. And of course, Dina and I, we were just like, what's going on? I mean, what? And we get to this. I'm sorry I haven't gotten to his name, but we've found the monster, and the tables kind of switched around. I mean, you would have assumed it was a were monster, but a were human. The human was bitten by the monster and turns into human. Lives through all this life as he explains to Mulder what happened. Goes on, and the way with the style of writing, it's almost like, and there were so many things. Even my friend Dina was like, that's almost my character that I'm currently writing and such. And I mean, at least she feels comfort now that it's almost canon apparently. But with all that was going on with the writing style and everything, and you just gotta watch the episode. It's actually really, this is one of those where all I could say is you just go watch the episode, then come back here, and then you'll hear my final thoughts to this. So pause right there, go watch the episode, then come back to me. And if you are here in time, here's what I have to say on why I thought this episode was cringy, yet brilliant, and something that all writers should look at. Based upon the facts that this writer had written a lot of X-Files in the past, but this came at a time when fan fiction works were at its hype in any form of fandom around the mid-2010s. This was all due so with around the time Fallout Equestria became a big thing, and it was all over the news. I remembered it from that much. But I think what the X-Files was well known for was just take a break from the normal and experiment a little. Some of the writing ideas and all you probably have recognized and seen in a lot of fanfiction works that, unless you really taken the time to make sure you read it like it's your first time in your own work and edit and see what would work, what would not work. And yet, I mean, there are different aspects to it. And apparently the writers know what they're doing, that they're making fun of something, this type of writing, but yet they're making it enjoyable. Like, it's one of those where I think writers and fan fiction writers and anyone, even the fans, could really appreciate. Like, sure, the writing can be cringy at times, but it can lead to a really good sense of humor if you keep it at a well-balanced fact at it. As long as you present it like realize with the Candy Valley, and don't know. This is another prime example of if you think your writing seems cringy to you, if you think you seriously think it's cringy, go to this episode and it could be a really good energy boost or a really good reminder to really set in the goal. So, all in all, even though this episode was weird and bizarre, I was honestly having way too much fun with the humor, the practical effects, the excellent use of CGI, and just a friendly reminder that someone actually put in a lot of work for this episode too, even if it's just a parody or not. And it really does help rekindle Mulder's spirits in the end and kind of resparked on that. And in honesty work, this episode kind of did that the same way too for reminiscing. Especially now that I'm making some changes on my channel for the good. And like Mulder said, as we mature, we think of things in a whole different perspective. I don't know, just give it a watch. I am the Dark Horse of K.C. Have a good, creative, and blessed day. And thank goodness the dog didn't die.